Okay, I am back from the theater, and man, as you guys know, I do not sugarcoat anything. Look, I really, really wanted to be wrong about this. My expectations were set to, I mean, when I do watch parties, right? For my channel, I always ask, I have a totem poll. I ask you fans to vote on what it is that your expectations are for the movie we're about to watch if you've never seen it, what your impressions are if you have seen whatever movie that I'm going to be covering. Oh man, and the worst rating is always bottom of the barrel. And look, my expectations for this movie were bottom of the barrel. And then I saw it and I'm just like, man, it's almost like this movie was daring me. It's funny because, as you can probably tell, the movie ain't any good. And I want to, I mean, it was struggling to maintain any type of attention for me. I wasn't falling asleep. It wasn't that bad. But man, I am watching this movie. And you can say that people only go see these movies for the kills, but even when those are underwhelming and few and far between, you know that you've missed the mark. So as much as anyone want to say, oh, Inkarnate, you just don't get these movies, I don't think these movies' current handlers understand these movies because, yowza, I'm just like, bro, what are we doing here? So let's get right into it. Again, it's so funny to me how, on the one hand, with any type of horror movie, right? Especially slashers or what Final Destination falls into, teen horror. You can have people who say, oh, people only go watch these movies because of the death scenes. Dude, pause. Let's not pretend for a minute or a moment that the ensemble cast of the original Scream movie wasn't wildly popular to the point that not only has the franchise itself contemplated bringing back Stu Macher, but it did bring back Billy Loomis. Don't give me that crap that characters don't matter. They absolutely do. They absolutely do. You would not have all of these franchises, and look, I get that Jurassic Park, the first one is a horror movie, and I'll defend that. I'll defend that at any time. I've made a video about that, in fact. I did a watch party of that, and I said as much. There's a reason why they brought back the original three scientists for the latest Jurassic Park movie. There's a reason why these legacy characters... There's a reason why Laurie Strode was brought back, and I'll get to her in a minute for the Halloween movies. Do not tell me that the characters don't matter. That's crap, and it's a cop-out. The dialogue between these meat sacks, I mean, you talk about monotony. I don't know who these people are. I don't know who the hell these people are. And mind you, this is not spoiling anything because the setup of the film is, hey, this is family, and family is supposed to, hold on. Family, it's supposed to be closely knit, and family, our family's being targeted. Holy crap. These people don't look alike. They don't act alike. There's nothing drawing these people together. There's nothing. This isn't your family. This isn't a family that you would want to get to know. There's no arc going on. It's just like, wow, man. And you just have these husks, these caricatures. I know. Then again, it is so bad when these puppets on screen can't even reach the low bar of being stereotypes. It's wild to me, man. And on top of just basically reading their lines off of cue cards, there's zero chemistry between any of them. It's wild to me. Like, how do you have these many this many members of the ensemble cast, and it's like nothing. There ain't no spark. There ain't no verve. There's no energy to these people. I'm like, my God, give me something, man. And so again, this entire premise revolves around a woman who survived a premonition of a near-death experience back in the 60s, and because she continued to procreate now, and she was supposed to have never lived, now death is coming for not just her, but her family. So this grandma is like some kook, some crackpot, right? So much so that the family, her descendants, her kids, moved far away from her, right? Grandma is in some secluded, remote location that's within driving distance. Okay, so once the granddaughter drives all the way to grandma's house, Laurie Strode's house. Yo, I'm disappointed in myself that I did not even contemplate, and I wish I would have called this because I would have been spot on. It never occurred to me that with the return of this film and this franchise, that they would be going down the dreaded requel territory. And look, they didn't lean all the way into it. It wasn't like heavy-handed. Oh, look who we have back. Give me one quick second. We have Angel _ that says, on a level of 1 to 10, how horrible was it just overall? Honestly, man, I would have to give it a 2. That bad. There's no exaggeration. I would have to give it a 2, Angel, and I'll explain why as I'm explaining now. Yeah, so it never, and I should have called this. It never occurred to me that this film would enter requel territory. Now, it wasn't as bad as them like bringing back legacy characters, even though who the hell would even be considered a legacy character? Because this ought to be the movie everybody. The title of this movie ought to be Everybody Dies. Anyway, why I say Laurie Strode is, dude, the granddaughter. And in the Halloween movie from 2018, didn't they have the granddaughter reconnecting with the grandmother who's like a kook and an outcast in the family? Yeah. So we arrive at Laurie Strode's compound, and bruh, it's a barricade and a stockade that has multiple frames and pikes and spikes laced with barbed wire. It's like, what exactly are you keeping out if stepping outside, any one of those things could injure you? Like, you're trying to keep away death, but death is a force, not an animal. And it's so exaggerated, but it looks like something torn right out of, and I have to believe it was ripped off from Halloween 2018. I'm like, oh my God, man. And again, I wish I would have called it, and I should have guessed it. I should have look, it's only for one scene, but still, that movie is fresh enough in people's minds that, come on, film. But like, if you're gonna be derivative, if you're gonna be unoriginal, don't rip off your own material. Don't go ripping off something recent, especially as something as odious as Halloween 2018. And oh my God, once the granddaughter gets into the Laurie Strode compound to see her estranged grandmother, oh my God! Since we're speaking of requels, this woman was so disheveled. Yeah, it might as well have hearkened the return of Emperor Palpatine. Jesus, man. She looked like someone who was living off the land and someone who hadn't seen civilization in a decade. No, since in the last quarter century. Oh my God. Yeah, this, and I knew from the beginning. That we were off to a bad start because it just feels like it's dragging. There's no characterization. There's no intrigue with these characters. And again, character does matter. You should be you as the audience should live vicariously through the characters to the point that you don't want to see them die, because if you do, that will ramp up the fear factor. God. But moving on, one of the things that was a little distracting for me is that one of the cousins in this bloodline looked like the Haktua girl, which I have to believe was that casting was on purpose, although they didn't use any humor to the effect that would have made it gut busting. Speaking of humor, though this is such a low bar. One thing that I have to give, and this just goes to show the state of cinema that we're in. One piece of credit that I do have to give this film is that at least there was no Marvel humor, and you know exactly what I mean. At the very least, and look, I acknowledge that this is very low praise, it's low hanging fruit, but at least they didn't attempt to substitute characterization with quips. With that, and you know what I'm talking about, that Marvel sense of humor where either you have to have a joke every 5 minutes to fill some kind of quota, or you have to use a turn of phrase or a pop culture reference. Again, thank God it's not in this, but it just would have made a bland movie into a bad movie. So there's your praise. There were two funny scenes from one character back to back, which again were spun. I mean, there was a joke. There was a quote unquote funny scene before that, which was painfully unfunny. That like they cut it short. They cut the unfunny scene short and just moved on with the plot. But yeah, it was they did have two amusing scenes, much to the film's credit, which were genuinely funny, like organically funny. It's not high praise, it's not much, but it's something. Now we're gonna get into just this movie's utter failings. The boring extended opening was sadly a sign of things to come. It just felt like it was dragging. It just felt like, all right, just can we move? Like, it's bad when you only want the plot to push forward to get to the death scenes. That's bad. And it's especially bad, like for instance, a slasher movie where you're rooting for the bad guy, you're rooting for the masked maniac. Angel _ writes, honestly, the amount of gory death that shows up in the movies makes me wonder that fantasies the producer has. I agree. I'm hopefully gonna be getting a video out soon about the new Megan trailer. It's really uncomfortable. The fact that they have this doll, right, that's shaped like a little girl that's grinding and doing the hip thrust and the hip pose. And now they like grow her up into a woman. I'm like, I think that the producers are trying to tell us something, especially since James Wan dressed like a doll to promote the first movie, which I can assure you did not buy a single ticket because of that. And I'm sorry, I said James Wan. No, Jason Blum dressed like a doll. A married man dressed like a doll to promote this movie. That did not sell a single ticket. Furthermore, James Wan, this guy has a very odd. This is his fourth doll film. Dude, I get that you're 5'0" and probably shaped like a doll, but you have a very strange fixation. Weird fantasies. Sorry, typo. No, you're good, Angel. So, yeah, no, you're right, Angel. I think that these producers are just trying to tell us something, and it's very uncomfortable. And instead of dedicating their fetishes to cinema, they should probably seek therapeutic help of some kind. Anyway, yeah, the beginning was just like, yo, get to the point, move this on. Like, they kind of overdo it. They kind of go into overkill with all of the foreboding signs of things to come. It's like, dude, we get it. Kind of corny, kind of boring. So one thing that isn't a spoiler because they basically released the clip the entire scene in the teaser trailer, if I'm not mistaken. The tattoo parlor is a red herring and a nonsensical one within the context of the movie because it involves someone who's not even part of this whole death trap. So it's like, why go there? Why would this person be involved in this when they're not actually? It's again, it's stupid. The lulls in the story. I mean, there's so much of them. Here's the problem. On top of there being just no characters and really no plot, the lulls in the story between the elaborate attacks of death, I mean, it leaves you waiting for the death scenes, and then when the scenes arrive, they're just underwhelming. I'm like, I probably should have looked up who wrote and directed this, but I probably wouldn't be impressed anyway or even know who they are. But yeah, these people really dropped the ball with this. And again, I had the low bar of expecting some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Creative death scenes. And it's like, man, not even that, huh? Okay. So as the trailers already revealed, when Tony Todd, when his character appears, it brings much needed gravitas. But as much as it's not a pleasant, I don't want to say it was a pleasant sight. It was just a welcomed, a welcome addition that they had him. But man, you can tell, like, even from his voice, he wasn't well. And it was hard hearing his character mention that he was sick and death would be coming for him. Real quick, I have done an in memoriam of Tony Todd, but man, I feel compelled at this moment, and I hope if you'll join me in just having a moment of silence for Tony Todd. Okay. There's man. Speaking of, in that particular scene where he shows up, or that setting later on, there's a particular death scene that's like overly extended and torturous. I'm like, again, I don't think that these people understand what the tone of these Final Destination movies are. This was like brutal and not in a good way. Like, oh my God, it's like, bruh, just end this guy already. My God, why are you drawing this out? It felt like almost like the film had a vendetta against this guy. Angel underscore writes in, probably went on Google and typed in gory deaths for movies and used the first thing that popped up. It wouldn't surprise me. Like, I see such a low quality when it comes to films these days. I wouldn't be surprised if they're like certain scenes of them are AI generated. I just think that people are just like writers, screenwriters, directors, what have you. I genuinely think that they're just that lazy. I guess I get that it can be a corny or a cheap joke that somebody makes up. Oh man, where'd you get the script from, Grok? But it's like, no, considering how, hold on. Considering how ready, willing, and able, and at the ready, lazy these directors are, these writers and modern screenwriters. I genuinely, I mean, come on, they're ripping off other people's material already. I spoke when I was doing the preview for this movie, the precaution. I mentioned how the two most financially successful horror movies of 2025 so far, both of them are based off of ripoffs. Final Destination shamelessly ripped off the Omen movies, and then you have Sinners that came out last month, that is a plagiarism, a blatant, flagrant plagiarism of From Dusk Till Dawn. I would invite you, Angel, if you haven't seen that video, by all means, check. I think it's labeled as that sinner or guilty as sinners, I think it's called, my video. It details how I break down how every single aspect. It's something like 11 or 12 ways that Sinners rips off From Dusk Till Dawn. Getting back to this video, though. Oh, it's called, Sinners is a From Dusk Till Dawn rip, RIP off. But yeah, this movie is very, very underwhelming. Final Destinations Bloodlines. And man, of all, like, we've had a string of not just horror franchises that have come back from the dead, seemingly, like Evil Dead Rise. What was the Prey? Man, this, like, at least I got something out of hate watching, for lack of a better phrase, hate watching Prey. It's still my most watched video ever of anything. I got like 52K views on that watch party. Man, I gotta be honest. Final Destination. Oh, no. No. The worst film that I've seen, a reboot, remake, whatever, that might have come to, that was previously supposed to release on streaming. No. The grand champion of the worst has to be Salem's Lot of 2024. People probably forget that even came out. But yeah, from Final Destination, Bloodlines is in that company. Oh, it's so bad. This movie is just, it's nothing, man. It's powdered water. And here are, in my opinion, the absolute two worst cardinal sins that this movie dabbles in. First, if you're not going to do interesting characters, then at least have the cast have some measure of chemistry. So no characters, no chemistry. If not even that, then at least a good dialogue. Yo, you're killing me, man. And again, there's such a lull. There is a lull between each death scene to the point that it just drags. Now, again, I didn't fall asleep because there have been horror movies that's like, oh my God, yo, shoot me now. This is bad. Man, I am nodding off here. That wasn't the case here. But at the same time, it's like, yo, like, people, you're writing, do you just not have any life experience that you don't know how to write interesting characters? Are you not interesting? Do you not know interesting people? Can you please make a personality out of any of these husks? And number two, if no creative, memorable deaths, don't space them out with a plotting plot. Oh my God. Like, again, you can't tell me, well, Inkarnate, that these movies aren't about character. They're just about the death scenes. They're just an excuse to Dude, don't give me that. That's a cop-out. Okay, are you telling me that if you were to have memorable, likable, relatable characters in a Final Destination movie, that would break the film? You're stupid. That ain't how that works. No way. So, again, number one, just the lack of interesting characters or an attempt for characterization. Number two, bland kills that are far too spaced out. Like the only death scene that I remember is one that was like, oh my God, it was almost like the Final Destination curse took on like some kind of jigsaw trap. It was brutal and not in a good way, and just tonally out of place for this movie. So that, and again, the only reason why that's memorable is because it was so off-putting, but that's not something to hang your hat on. This movie had what I find so distracting and obnoxious with films nowadays, which is an overload of not just pop culture music, but used in like ironic ways. Angel underscore chimes in again. Honestly, I might just watch the Final Destination movies to see how corny it is. I love watching corny movies. Helps my dignity. I wasn't expecting that last line. That's just it helps my dignity. I would recommend the Final Destination movies that I like are. Let me think. Let me try to remember. The Final Destination movies that I like are 2 and 3, and mostly because they have some semblance of characterization, or they have characters that I recognize from other films, and there's like some attempt at camaraderie, especially in the third one, because they're high school graduates, and there's like some kind of, how can I put it? It's not heavy-handed, but it's just visible enough where there is like some kind of awareness and commentary about where these kids are in their lives and graduation and all that. So again, I would recommend Final Destination 2 and 3. I don't find the first one particularly interesting at all. It's not something that I would reach for, or it's not. Look, the barometer of whether I think a horror movie is good is not just would I watch it, would I buy the Blu-ray? Would I own it so that I can pop it in and watch whenever I want? And the first one just doesn't make the cut for me, pun intended. So yeah, the overload of not just pop culture, bubblegum music, but the ironic use of it, like, oh, it's so happy and chipper, and oh, but the message, oh, but listen to them lyrics, they're showing what's gonna come next. Man, look, they made this movie not because someone had a great idea about how to bring it back. No, they did it purely just to bring it back, just to reboot the franchise, just to reboot this series. And I guess I didn't care enough to guess, but it's like, man, these movies, they don't care. They're not interesting. They're just there, man. It's so sad. And that now that this one made money, I didn't see what the budget was, but you have to figure that they're going to make another one based purely on the fact that this one made money. And yeah, these series just keep for a series called Final Destination, you would think that we wouldn't be 2 trilogies in. And all I can say is that how unfortunate it is that nobody has any good ideas. It's just, hey, it's been a while since we've seen this old friend. Let's bring it back for no reason other than the cash grab. And that's all that this movie is. And it's sad to say that these franchises are like a bad penny. They always turn up. Regardless, Angel chimes in for one last time. Again, with we're so unique for this idea, and it's the most washed out stuff ever. Agreed. These, like I said during my preview of the film, the Saw movies to me were always blood and guts the movie. The Final Destination films are just, it's killer mousetrap. There's really, it would be one thing if the characters made decisions in their, like, they were so afraid about what's happening. They were the drivers of their own demise. You know what I mean? Dying in ironic ways. But again, it's always something gets electrocuted out of nowhere and fluid spills on the floor, so either they're gonna slip or it's flammable. It's even the movie itself is so detached from these characters making any kind of decision. These characters being the instruments of their own demise. Death scenes for the sake of death scenes. No plot, no character. On to the next one. Do not question, just consume next product. And it's Oh man! Again, the fact that this one made money. Talk about a bad omen of things to come. So that's been my piece on this. Highly skippable. I mean, I don't think that this is even good. I wouldn't even recommend this for streaming. Again, Angel, by all means, check out, like I said, parts 2 and 3. I would recommend either of those to anybody else. But this has just been the latest gimmick in what has already now been a complete trilogy. 4, 5, and 6, a complete trilogy of gimmicks. 4 had 3D. 5 was a prequel that you didn't know was a prequel until it connected to the end. And this one just uses the bloodline gimmick to pad out the body count. And it paid no mind to making these people feel like an ensemble, feel like family, feel like these are interesting characters, feel like you want to see them get. It's so sad. It's so tired. So those are my thoughts, and you've been warned. I've been Inkarnate, reminding you I ain't just a big deal, I'm the real deal. If you're resigned to your fate, time to subscribe to your fears.
Warn your friends. Warn everyone.